let me tell you something that nobody at the dealership is going to say out loud. The green wall is leaking. You've been loyal to Deere. Your dad was loyal to Deere. His dad probably had a John Deere belt buckle. But right now, in 2024, there's a tractor rolling onto American fields, built in Bavaria, Germany, that is quietly doing things the 9R 540 cannot match. And the farmers who figured this out early, they're not talking about it much. Because why would you tip off your competition? I'm going to break this down for you today. Transmission, cab, software, resale, operating expenses, and the bigger structural question every serious row crop farmer in the Corn Belt needs to be asking right now. This is Farm Gear Pro, and this is the most important head-to-head we've run this year. Let's establish what we're comparing here. On one side, the John Deere 9R 540, 540 horsepower rated, 594 at peak. The flagship tractor of the largest farm equipment brand in the world, the machine that has run the Corn Belt for decades, Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, Indiana. Walk any dealer lot from the Mississippi River to the high plains, and you will see green and yellow. Big farms, custom operators, 4-generation row crop families. Almost all of them bought Deere. That was the default. That was the expectation. On the other side, the Fendt 1050 Vario, 500 horsepower. Built in Marktoberdorf, Germany, nature green paint. Not John Deere green, not even close. And a transmission that Deere doesn't build, has never built, and honestly, might never be able to build the way Fendt does it. This is the head-to-head. And the numbers are going to tell a story that might make you uncomfortable if you've been writing Deere checks for 20 years. Start with the transmission, because that's where the money is. The Fendt 1050 Vario runs a continuously variable transmission. Fendt calls it Vario drive. No gears, no shift points. 0. You, the operator, pick a ground speed, say 6.2 miles per hour across a wet field, and the tractor matches it. The engine sits at whatever RPM burns the least diesel for that specific load. Period. The machine does the math. You drive. Now compare that to the Deere 9R 540. It runs the E18 power shift. 18 forward gears, electronically controlled, and yes, it is a fine transmission. If you grew up on it, you know it. It works. But here's the issue. Under partial load, which is most of a farmer's actual day, by the way, the Vario drive keeps that Fendt engine running 200 to 400 RPM lower at the same ground speed. 200 to 400 RPM lower. Lower RPM at the same working speed means one thing: less diesel burned per acre. And on a 5,000-acre operation across a full planting season, that gap is not a rounding error. That's real operating expense, showing up real dollars on a real P&L. This is not opinion. This is not a spec sheet argument. Every custom operator who has run both machines back-to-back knows this. Walk the floor at Farm Progress in Decatur, Illinois, and pull one of those guys aside. Ask them off the record. You'll hear the same thing every time. The CVT wins on fuel. Full stop. Now what does that mean financially? Think about your fuel bill for the season. If you're running 5,000 acres of corn and soybeans, you know what diesel costs you. You know what even a 5 to 8% reduction in fuel consumption looks like on your operating expenses annually. That's not a small number. That's potentially a new piece of iron every few years, just from the transmission efficiency gap. On a 10,000-acre operation? The math gets uncomfortable for John Deere pretty fast. All right. Before we get into the cab and the software wars, I want to say something directly to you. If you're a farmer, an ag professional, a custom operator, or you just love tracking where this industry is heading, hit subscribe on Farm Gear Pro right now. We do this every single week. Brand against brand, machine against machine. No fluff, no dealer talk, just real field analysis. Hit like on this video if you're getting value out of it. It helps us keep building this content. Share it with the guy in your operation who's about to sign a Deere purchase order. Let him watch this first. All right, back to the iron. The cab. Don't skip this section. A row crop operator is in that seat 12 hours a day, 14 hours during spring planting and fall harvest. That is not a short shift. That is a grind. And at hour 11 at 9 p.m. with 400 acres still to go, the cab is not a luxury. The cab is an operational tool. The difference between a good cab and a great cab shows up in your decision-making at the end of a long day. The Fendt 1050 cab was built around that reality. Pneumatic cab suspension, meaning the cab itself floats, absorbs field vibration before it reaches your spine. Self-leveling front axle suspension, a seat tuned specifically for vibration dampening, engineered by a German company that treats ergonomics as an engineering discipline, not a brochure bullet point. Pneumatic cab suspension, self-leveling front axle, built for the long haul. Farmers who have made the switch from Deere to Fendt describe that cab the way old truckers talk about a Peterbilt 379 conventional. It feels like the company designed it for the operator first and the spec sheet second. That's a different philosophy, and you feel it after 10 hours in the seat. John Deere's cab on the 9R540 is not bad. It's a solid cab. But it wasn't designed with the same singular obsession around operator fatigue that the Germans brought to the Vario. When you're managing multiple operators across a large operation, operator fatigue is an operating expense. Mistakes happen when people are exhausted. Equipment gets pushed wrong. That's real money. Now the software. And this is where it gets personal for a lot of you. John Deere in recent years has built its modern tractor ecosystem around a software architecture that only Deere-authorized dealers can fully access. Sensor faults, ECU resets, certain hydraulic recalibrations. The man who has owned his land for 40 years, who has maintained his own equipment his whole career, cannot legally fix his own tractor anymore without a dealer technician with the right credentials and the right laptop. You own the iron, but you don't own the software. This issue has gone all the way to the Federal Trade Commission. State-level right-to-repair laws are being passed across the agricultural states. John Deere signed a memorandum of understanding with the American Farm Bureau, but talk to farmers, the trust is damaged, and the people watching this video know it personally. Some of you have stood next to a $500,000 machine at sunset, waiting on a dealer tech who can't get there until tomorrow, while your planting window closes. That is not an acceptable business model for a serious farming operation. Fendt and AGCO are not perfect. No manufacturer is. But the philosophy is less restrictive. Diagnostic tools are more accessible to independent shops and to operators who know their machines. It's not wide open, but it's better. And right now, better is a competitive advantage. At Farm Gear Pro, we track this stuff closely because right to repair directly affects your operating expenses, your asset depreciation schedule, and your true cost per acre. When you factor in the downtime cost of being locked out of your own equipment, the Fendt's accessibility isn't just a philosophical point, it's a financial one. Let's talk about the structural argument, the 30,000-foot view. John Deere is publicly traded. The CEO answers to Wall Street, to quarterly earnings calls, to share buybacks, to a shareholder base that has never sat in a tractor cab and has never watched a thunderstorm roll across a field they can't afford to lose. Decisions about feature gating, software lockouts, dealer markup structures, those decisions are not made in Iowa. They are made in Moline, Illinois, in front of a slide deck, with financial projections on the screen. Moline answers to Wall Street, your field answers to nature. Fendt is part of AGCO, also publicly traded, yes. But Fendt's culture, like Claas, like Krone, like much of German farm machinery heritage, was built family first and engineering first for most of a century before the corporate structure arrived. That heritage shows up in the product, less feature gating, less software hostility, more machine for the dollar up front, even when the sticker price looks higher on the window. And the sticker price is a legitimate conversation. The Fendt 1050 Vario is not cheap, neither is the 9R540. We are talking about a $500,000 asset purchase at the top of both lines. When you're evaluating asset depreciation, resale value, fuel savings over 5 years, and maintenance accessibility, the Fendt's total cost of ownership picture starts looking different than the sticker price suggests. That is how serious farm financial management actually works. Not sticker to sticker. Total cost of ownership, 5 years out, 10 years out. Now let's talk about what's happening on the ground in America. The Fendt US dealer network is expanding. AGCO has put serious capital behind the dealer footprint, particularly across the upper Midwest and the Northern Plains. 5 years ago, finding a Fendt-certified technician in Iowa was a project, a phone call that might go nowhere. Today, it's a drive. Maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, but the infrastructure is being built. The Fendt dealer network is growing fast. Used Fendt 1050. Vario tractors are holding resale value strong relative to comparable Deere 9R units with similar hours on the meter. Pull auction results from Sullivan Auctioneers, from Steffi's group. Look at comparable hours, comparable years, and run the numbers. Farmers who track resale value closely, and most serious operators do, they see this. The market capitalization of a used Fendt is holding in a way that surprised a lot of people 5 years ago. And the custom operators, the men and women running 80,000 to 100,000 acres a year on contract, the people who cannot afford a tractor going down in the wrong week of the season, they are switching. You can see them at Farm Progress in Decatur, at Husker Harvest Days in Grand Island, Nebraska. Pull up to the equipment displays and count the rows. 3 rows of Vario Nature Green sitting next to 2 rows of Deere Green. That is the headline. The custom operators are the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the industry. They run the numbers harder than anyone. They have the least margin for error and the most exposure to equipment downtime. When they start switching, you pay attention. So where does this leave us? John Deere versus Fendt, the bottom line. This is not a collapse. Let me be clear about that. John Deere is not going anywhere. The brand still owns the largest tractor footprint in America, the largest dealer network in the country, the deepest financing arm, the most brand loyalty in the industry. If you are running a 600-acre family farm and your county's only dealer is a Deere store, that matters. Dealer proximity and parts availability are real variables in the operating expense calculation. But here's what's different now compared to 10 years ago. For 40 years, a serious row crop operation in the Corn Belt bought Deere because there was no real alternative at that horsepower and capability level. The green and yellow wall was the only wall. That is no longer true. There is now a German alternative running in American fields. It is more efficient on fuel under real working conditions. It is kinder to the operator across a 14-hour harvest day. It is less hostile to the man who actually owns the iron and wants to maintain his own equipment. And it is holding resale value in a way the market is noticing. The next decade of American big tractor sales is not going to look like the last 4. The shift is not sudden. It's not dramatic on any single day. But it is real, and it is building, and every dealer principal in Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska already knows what color the leak is. At Farm Gear Pro, we've been watching this shift for years, and the data is pointing in one direction. The green wall is not gone, but it is leaking, and the leak is nature green. Final scorecard. Head to head. Transmission efficiency under real load conditions. Fendt wins. Operator ergonomics across a 12-plus hour day. Fendt wins. Software accessibility and right-to-repair philosophy. Fendt wins. Dealer network coverage across the full Corn Belt. Right now, today, Deere wins. Still, brand recognition, financing options, and parts availability in rural markets. Deere wins. Total cost of ownership across a 5-year asset depreciation cycle on a large row crop operation. This is where your accountant earns his fee. Run your numbers. Don't take our word for it. The honest answer is, if you are on a 1,000-acre operation close to a strong Deere dealer you trust, the 9R 540 is still a serious machine. But if you are running 5,000 acres or more, if you've dealt with software lockouts personally, if you've done the fuel math, if your operation depends on operator productivity across long harvest days, the Fendt 1050 Vario deserves a genuine numbers-based evaluation, not a dealership test drive, a real evaluation. Give it a real evaluation. Your bottom line deserves that. That is the breakdown. John Deere 9R 540 versus Fendt 1050 Vario. 2 different philosophies about what a tractor should be, who it should serve, and what it should cost you to own over time. This is what Farm Gear Pro does every week. Real machines, real numbers, real talk for real farmers. No brand loyalty, no dealer sponsorship, just field analysis for the people running the iron. Thanks for watching Farm Gear Pro. If you found this breakdown valuable, share it with a fellow farmer and comment below your thoughts on this topic. See you in the next one.